All right, so karibu sana. As Christine said earlier, this is International School of Advertising, and essentially we are an institution that focuses on building skills in the area of marketing and brand communications. We've been around since 2014. We're very proud now to be getting into our 11th year, and we thank God that He has sustained us through this period of time. Our approach is very, very industry aligned. So we don't like to consider ourselves as another academic institution, but more like an institution that is aligning you to what the industry demands. So preparing you for the in-demand skills so that you're able to apply them immediately as soon as you learn. And at the same time, also offering you opportunities in the job market in this industry. And these logos over here just show you some of the organizations we collaborate with in terms of developing content, and the Advertising Practitioners Association, which is the association for advertising agencies, is our has endorsed our programs. So just in terms of our approach is because we are industry aligned, we work with industry practitioners and experts. So these pictures over here just give you an example of who you would expect when you're with ISA. And of course, today we're very proud to have Ken Karaoke here, who's a business and brand strategist. He'll be talking more about that. But just as you can see from the people represented here, these are experts in different fields, from digital to research to advertising to media, and all those areas that one would cover under brand communications. So then when we look at the programs, we start from the beginning. We have programs for those who are just starting, fresh graduates, as well as early stage employees. And then we also have master classes for corporates, for those who would like something tailor-made, and everything in between. So today we'll be focusing on integrated brand communications, which is IDC, and we will be focusing on a specific unit within it, which is called marketing and brand planning. But even for others who are considering, similar programs, we also are a Chartered Institute of Marketing accredited center. So we offer diplomas, CIM diplomas for at ISA. So just to let you know a little bit about the Integrated Brand Communications Program, it's actually what we call our mother brand. It's what we started with. It's homegrown. It's developed by the industry for the industry. Its approach is very, very integrated, because right now, if you look at the way marketing has taken, the shift that marketing has taken over the last 5 years, other than, of course, not technology and AI, which has come more recently, is that everything is integrated. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Is that we cannot separate the creative idea to the channel. And even when we're looking at that channel, we have to look at all the channels, as opposed to looking at one primary channel, which is what we used to do before. We'd look at mostly traditional channels, and then we see how do then we plug in digital channels. But now we are seeing digital channels are the ones taking prominence, but we are still, it's still very important that even if you're using a digital channel, how does it integrate with others? Whether it's outdoor, whether it's experiential activities below the line. So everything now has to be integrated. And then, of course, now the new emergence is the integration with AI. I'm considering AI almost like, what electricity became when it came, and how, the sort of shift it created, and how the sort of disruption it created. So that's what AI is going to do for us. We are now seeing ourselves primarily moving towards AI-driven jobs, and even in the way now we are teaching is that, yes, you will learn the fundamentals of advertising or marketing and etc., but you also have to learn how does AI integrate. So when you combine both the technical side and the strategic side of what it is that you're going to learn, then you're winning. And it's very important that those two are together, by the way, because again, we are seeing a shift towards people just going straight to AI and thinking that will give you the solutions. It won't. You still need to understand the basics, the fundamentals, the approach, the structure towards developing, strategies, campaigns, and connecting effectively with your audiences so that you can drive growth for your brands. Yeah, so IBC is our own product. It's endorsed by the Advertising Practitioners Association, and and the brands that I showed you there are the ones we have worked with in terms of content development. So these are the four key units that are covered under it, and we call it IBC in short. Starting with marketing and brand planning, which is what we'll talk about today. And then we also have strategic advertising management. It has integrated media, and it also has digital. It's also underlined by account management and life skills, because those are also critical. Things like just learning, bring problem solvers, managing your projects, managing your time, team dynamics, all those other soft skills and personal skills are still very critical to what you do on a day-to-day basis. So again, those are just to emphasize some of our key partners. We have research partners, we have advertising partners, digital partners, strategy partners, and all of them are credible organizations in our market who we are working with to make sure that what we are offering you is, as I said in the beginning, is in demand. So whatever it is you're learning, you're able to go and apply it immediately. Okay. So I think I will now, with now no further ado, allow Ken Karaoke to just take it from here. Karibu Karaoke.
Hi, Susan. Do you want to introduce me a little bit before I do?
Oh, okay. I wanted to give it honors. Anyway, fine. So Ken, you can even put on your video. We can see, so that we can see you. So Ken Karaoke is one of our trainers at ISA. Actually, he's one of the people who have been there since inception. Remember, I said since 2014. So we're quite, proud to have Ken journey with us all that time. As I showed on my slide, he's a brand strategist, but also a business strategist. He has moved from marketing. He has handled brands, gone into business, and of course, now in training, together with everything else that he's doing. So Ken, let me let you take it from there. Tafadhali.
Okay, thank you, Susan, and thank you everybody for coming in here today. It just reminds me, a few years ago, I met a retired brewer who had worked at Kenya Breweries for 30 years. I actually also worked there for a few years in marketing, but also in sales. When I asked him what made Tusker endure while so many other brands had fizzled out and just gotten forgotten, he paused, smiled, and said, Tusker never forgot where it came from. The elephant never ran from its roots. That struck me because whether you're running a fintech startup, a retail chain, or a legacy brand, the real art is knowing what to change and what never to touch. In strategy, we say you must have trade offs. In Kenya, we are very good at copying what everybody else is doing. But real strategy, real differentiation is when you have trade offs, things that you're not willing to do. And that differentiates you. Today, we'll explore that balance, how brands like Apple, M-Pesa, Equity Bank, and Tusker have evolved boldly while holding tightly to their soul. We'll break it down into a framework that I call disruptive consistency. And by the end of this session, I hope you leave with practical, timeless insights to guide your brand through any storm. So as you've heard, my name is Ken Karaoke. I'm managing partner at Strategy Lab, a business and brand strategy advisory, and a trainer. I have a very close heart to International School of Advertising because if there is one school that has really transformed people, especially after college, it is this school. And especially because it teaches the practical way of working in the industry, whether it's in advertising or in brand management, etc. Because a lot of times you may leave college, go to work, but you don't know what to do. Now, International School of Advertising is really, really good in getting you there. It's truly a privilege to speak with you today about one of the most critical yet misunderstood challenges in branding. It's how to evolve without erasing who you are. So let me start. So, as you've heard, the title is mastering disruptive consistency for brand endurance. Um, and one of the things that we have found is that the brands that endure are not the ones that change a lot. They're the ones that know exactly what not to change, and that's what I called. I told you is a trade-off. There are things you change, yes. There are things that evolve, but there are things that you need to keep as is. Things that are core to the brand. Move on. Next. Susan, next. So why is this topic important? We realize that the world is really moving fast. Um, Many brands are disappearing, not because they are not innovative, but because of forgetting who they are. Brands must be consistent. Brands must continue remembering where they've come from. Some are also irrelevant or become irrelevant because they are rigid. They stay rigid, they don't change. You find that with founders brands especially, they're like, oh, this is what has made me successful, I don't want to change it. I've had that experience with clients where you're saying we need to change this and they are saying no, 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 this is how we started, and they've been very successful, so they don't want to change. They stay rigid, and with time they become irrelevant. So what's important here is balancing, mastering the paradox, knowing what must never change, um, but also remembering that there are certain things that need to change. But you ensure that the soul of your brand or the essence of your brand never changes. Okay, next. So, what are the key questions we should ask ourselves? The first one is, how do I build a brand that doesn't lose its way as it grows? A brand right from the beginning, and when you see it 50 years later, it still speaks to your soul. How can I future proof my brand in a noisy, saturated market? What examples are there from Kenya, Africa, and the world? What frameworks do successful strategists use? How can I become a brand strategist or CMO who knows how to scale enduring brands? Okay, so you've got your brand, you understand its soul, you realize that you need to keep it relevant, so it must evolve, but you also know that you need to scale it, to give it to all the target markets that you're targeting, to ensure that it keeps growing, even in terms of extension of brands and that sort of things. Okay, Susan. So this is the framework then, and I call it the disruptive consistency. It's about what must change and what must never change. So there are three pillars of disruptive consistency. There's the identity anchor, and that's what should never change. And then there's the bold evolution, what must transform. And of course, we have the scale soul, which is growth that strengthens. So this becomes your North Star as far as this presentation is concerned, and as far as mastering disruptive consistency is concerned. So you need to have all the pillars working together. Susan. Okay, so what's the core question then? That's one of the things we ask in strategy. What's the crux of the issue? What must change and what must never change? And you can see those three pillars: anchor, evolve, and scale. Focus for anchor is what must never change. And we've got examples of brands there like Apple and Equity, Um, and then what? And then in terms of evolving, what must be constantly refreshed? And you've got brands like that. And then scale. How do you amplify without diluting your brand? And we've got Tusker in there. Next. Okay, so this then are the anchors that you should always keep in mind, even as you finish this webinar today. I think keep these three in mind when you're managing your brands. That you must have an anchor, you must evolve your brand, and you must scale it. You must amplify it. Susan. Okay, so let's start with the first one now. So let's look at the story of Apple by looking first at its timeline and then understanding it a lot more. In 1977, Apple was launched with the rainbow logo and the slogan "Think Different." And even then, simplicity meets creativity. In 1999, it streamlined its black logo, ushering in a new design era. And in 2025, it has its sleek silver branding, minimal, and you can see even in the outlets, there's minimalist, very clean and white. Um, uh, brand uh, identity in terms of the physical evidence, but still think different. And a quote here: from rainbow dreams to silver silence, but always think different. So Apple began its journey in 1977 with a very colorful logo. And of course, what that signified was creativity, but also very, very simple mantra that was think different. Over the decades, it has transformed. Remember, from the days of the desktop, there was a little roundish looking desktop, which I had, by the way. My boss gave it to me at the time. To iPhones, to iPads, wearables. But when you look at all their products, one thing remains unchanged. Very much about simplicity, very much about seamless experience, and also that premium feel. When you think about Apple products, the first thing that comes to you besides creativity is that this is a premium product. The Apple story isn't about technology, it's about clarity. That though the products that they have are complex, that complexity does not really show. There's simplicity and yet really working well. Okay. The soul of the brand remains the same. So they didn't just evolve their tech, they stayed still at the center. And that's how you must master disruptive consistency. So let's look at the visual next. So just looking at that first pillar. So Apple's identity anchor, 50 years of simplicity in a changing world. And you can see 1977 with its rainbow colors. So simplicity, user experience, premium feel. What evolved? Everything else. Key point: your brand soul must be unshakable. Apple proves that consistent identity enables bold evolution. From rainbow computers to sleek fonts, that commitment, simplicity never wavered. This is what smart evolution looks like. So you can see, um, the way nothing much has changed. There's still excellence. That even when things are changing underneath, you know that it is still premium. You know that it's about simplicity. It's about creativity. Okay, move on. Okay, so again, always bringing back this slide. Think about those three pillars, even as you manage your brand. Move on. Okay, so let's look at Safaricom then, timeline, 1997 up to now. In 1997, Safaricom was founded as Telcom Kenya subsidiary. You can't even believe it, huh? In 2007, it launched M-Pesa, but only as a money transfer. In 2025, it has 33 plus billion transactions annually. and 34 million users, from voice calls to financial transformation. So if you look at the in 2007, what really became the innovation that became sticky, it became difficult to move. Because I remember we did research at the time, and consumers had issues with Safaricom, all sorts of issues. But the one thing they had no issue with when it was launched was M-Pesa. They said it came to help us. But besides that, the stickiness was, how do I leave Safaricom? I need M-Pesa. And that's why today they are processing over 33 billion transactions. Okay, if they really changed, they would mess up. Okay, so although they evolved, you can see M-Pesa has really evolved to all sorts of products. They transformed an entire continent's relationship with money. Suddenly we are like, I mean, I remember the days when people used to say, oh, I'm building a house in, I don't know where, in Kisumu or something like that. So I am going there this weekend to pay my workers. That has changed things. And you can see at the center of M-Pesa, it's just that, being able to deliver, being able to deliver, but always knowing that they need to be inclusive. When the product was first launched, I thought, oh, I don't know whose it is for. It's not really for me. Before I realized it's actually for everybody. Okay, let's move on to the next. And when you look at its evolution, then it's disrupted for the last 18 years. If you look at the timeline, starts as a money transfer. 2012, it gets into banking services. You see all the banks have issues, or it's coming into our space, and they realize if you can't beat them, join them. Then the super app ecosystem, looking at its app so far, plus AI powered services. So what never changed? Not the word Twaweza, but the meaning of the word Twaweza spirit. Grassroots accessibility. There's once we did research again for Safaricom Foundation at the time, and Safaricom Foundation was not Safaricom Marathon. And when we did the Safaricom Marathon research, people said the Safaricom Marathon. At that time, it was called the what was it called? The what marathon? What was it called? Somebody? What was the Safaricom Marathon called?
Lewa.
The Lewa Marathon. And at the time, they said, oh, that is for Michael Joseph and his Mzungu friends. Why did they say that? It was very upmarket. It was very anti what the brand is about. And the company decided, you know what, let's stop calling it Lewa, let's call it the Safaricom Marathon. Because we are not about premiumness. M-Pesa is not about premiumness. Safaricom is not about premiumness. It's across, it goes across. And it's very much about inclusiveness. It's about changing lives. So, they wanted to be about grassroots. They wanted to be about it can be done, we can do it, and everybody can do it, and everybody can be included. If they tried instead to change and become premium, that would mess up the core of the brand, the soul of the brand. If you remember at the time, there was Airtel. I don't remember what Airtel was called the first time when it was launched, but it was very much about
Celtel.
Was it Airtel, the original?
Celtel.
Celtel. Good. Thank you for reminding me. So when Celtel or Kencel, was it Kencel? Wait. Okay, it's had so many names. Kencel, okay. Kencel. So when Kencel was launched, what the owners of the company felt, and I think they were French at the time, was not everybody can afford this. We're going to sell it to people who are working, maybe in companies, and who can then get an account, one of those postpaid accounts, because there nobody else can afford. But Safaricom was very clear that they believed that in inclusiveness. They believe in empowering everybody. So you can see it across their brands that they want everybody to be able to use their products. Okay, so the key point here for M-Pesa is consistent evolution to serve your mission better. That you can disrupt yourself while still staying true to mission or staying true to the brand. This is the courage of great brands, not to be shaken when you see your competitors doing things, but being very clear that your brand must stay anchored in its core, but it must also evolve in terms of disruption without losing the soul. And that's what makes a brand successful. Next, let's look at others. Again, coming back to this, reminding you each time it's about disruptive consistency, identity anchor, bold evolution, scale soul. Okay. Okay, so let's look at Equity Bank. And by the way, I was Equity Bank's first head of marketing. So if you look at its timeline then, 1984, founded as Equity Building Society. In case you guys didn't know, it used to be a building society in Kangema in Moranga with 5 employees and shillings 5,000. Can you imagine starting a business? I mean, 1984 sounds like it's far away, but 5,000. So in 2004, it transformed into a commercial bank, became Equity Bank. And I remember at the time in 2005, especially, the bank was trying to get into what is called the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse is a cartel of all the major banks. And sometimes it's really difficult to get in. They don't want you in there. So Equity fought very hard to get into the clearinghouse. A clearinghouse means that you can clear your own checks. In the beginning, what Equity Bank did, it had KCB clear its checks. But when it got into the clearinghouse, it was then able to really become a bank in that sense. Currently, 15 million. I think there are even more customers than this. Presence in 7 countries. Assets 1.1 trillion. This is a bank that started in 2004. Can you imagine? The other banks have been here for 100 years. The Stanchart, the Barclays, the KCBs. So Equity didn't just grow bigger, it grew braver, bolder, and more humane. So let's understand Equity's humble beginnings in 1984. 5 employees, 5,000 shillings in a small town called Kangema. But what was powerful? What did it carry in its soul? A mission to give dignity to the excluded. In 2004, it became a commercial bank, and that's when the scale began. But the soul never shifted. Equity held tightly to its core belief: banking is a human right, not a privilege. And I still remember James Mwangi, then CEO, still CEO, saying, we have to give people their dignity. We have to be their champion. We have to champion. All the big banks have closed their branches in the rural areas. All the big banks want every customer to have a balance of 40,000 shillings in their accounts. They are being unfair. This is against human rights. Let's start a bank that empowers the people. Let's start an inclusive bank. In 2000, so today with over 15 million customers across 7 countries and over 1 trillion shillings in assets, Equity proves a radical idea that growth can scale dignity, not strip it. In a world where size often dilutes soul, because one of the things we as customers we always say, or many of us say, is big organizations are there to take advantage of you. Big banks were there to take advantage of you. But what we can see here is that scale does not have to dilute the soul. The soul of dignity, the soul of inclusiveness, the soul that says banking is a human right, not a privilege. And that's what equity did. It's so that you can grow but still not lose your heart. And to me, that is why they have been so successful. Next. Okay, so and you can look at, you can see this visual then, the way they move. So what never changed? Belief. Banking is a human right. Identity, your listening, caring partner. In the beginning, they used to say you're listening, caring financial partner. They removed the word financial so that it's like, you're our partner. It doesn't have to be about money. Mission, banking the unbanked, giving dignity to the excluded. What's the key point here? Equity didn't just grow bank, it scaled dignity. Equity proves you can scale, you can become big without losing your soul. Growth amplified the mission, never compromise it. Okay, next. Okay, let's move on to the next. I just want us not to forget these three. So, okay, so there's a question there. Let's just go back a little bit. So, yeah, let's go here. Would you say that Equity Bank was intentional about promoting inclusivity, especially considering that other banks at the time were perceived as premium and catered to a particular class, while Equity was often referred to as a Mkulima bank? I think they were very intentional about inclusivity. And actually, if you think about it, at the time, the reason that Equity was also became big is that it got a lot of help from donors. The moment it created what suddenly looked like a social enterprise, what then happened is that all these donors came and supported the bank. They supported the bank because they saw that inclusivity bit. And I remember they used to talk about it, it's about inclusivity. And I remember attending a few meetings, especially with donors. So yes, it was actually intentional that they wanted to be inclusive. I think they saw this as a big opportunity. Instead of getting to the same space, remember we talked about trade-off, what we don't do. The trade-off is strategy, is central in strategy. We are not going to be the same, we're going to be different. If you're the same, they would never have become this big. And yeah, Susan, as you're saying, Susan, actually just, say something, just say it loudly. Let's hear you. And Faith after that.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say from a communications perspective, I think they captured it also very, very well with their agency.
Yeah.
It was a very daring campaign as well.
Yes.
But the insight was that regular banks are sort of perceived as, up there with this look, you can't even approach it. It's unapproachable, so to speak. And yet the people who they are even targeting, when you think of people in the rural areas, farmers and all that, they have a very strong community culture.
Yes.
And they tapped into community culture, and then of course were able to reinforce it by showing that they are reinforcing community against banks who are not, because they are seen as aloof and unapproachable. So that's why that you found that that campaign was very, very successful. And apparently even what they did in their branches is that they allowed them to sprinkle sawdust on the floor, because just to make farmers feel comfortable when they walk in, not the clean marble look, but it's okay. Hata mchanga ni sawa, you can come in and we'll be happy with you being here.
Yeah. Okay, great. And we have Faith saying that was their niche, and she's really right. And Betty also saying they saw a gap and found a way to fulfill the consumer needs. And I think I'm really happy, just listening to these comments. because this is really, really what changed them. Can you imagine becoming the biggest bank it's right now we might say it's 20 years, but it's not 20 years. They've been the biggest bank for a while now. It's not easy. People don't change banks just like that. They may become, they may have multiple accounts, but they don't change like that. How did people actually decide to do that? And I think that's, as marketing people, as brand people, that's what we need to understand. That we need a soul, that when the soul is clear enough, it becomes easier for you. So thank you, Faith and Betty. Let's move on. I'll try and move a bit faster. Do we have to finish by 2, Susan? We've got not very many minutes unless I go quite fast.
Christine, could you just comment on that, please?
Sorry?
Christine, who is
Yes, we can.
managing this?
We can. I'll try and go a little faster.
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at this slide, okay, I didn't. That should have been a Coke logo, not an equity logo. But anyway, in 1921, I don't know whether you remember "I'd Like to Buy the World a Coke." It was a nice song, very classic at the time. You may not remember 1921, Susan, but anyway, I remember it much later. Yes, but in 2011,
It was a classic. It was a classic.
It was amazing, isn't it? Very nice.
Yeah.
In 2011, Share a Coke, the personalization campaign. You remember the cans with people's names. 2020, 100% recycled plastic bottles initiative. So change let Coca-Cola stay relevant without losing its spark. One of the things that's really important about this is, look, and the reason that I keep putting that that slide is you need to look at all those 3 pillars. Don't look at only one and say, oh, we never change, or we are, etc. It's not just about the soul. It's also the way you execute in the market. And that's where you have the evolving, where you even develop new products without losing the soul, and also then go into scaling, build it in, amplify the brand, have extensions. So Coca-Cola is not just a beverage. It's a global symbol of happiness, optimism, and togetherness. That is at the center of its brand. Okay. Since the early 20th century, Coke has anchored itself in timeless values, refreshment, joy, and that uplifting red and white identity. And yet, Coke always changes its marketing, especially even its messages. Its messages change every year, especially around Christmas. So from the nostalgic anthem that Susan was just telling us about called Share a Coke, I'd like to buy the world a Coke, to Share a Coke in 2011, to the sustainable push of 2020 with recycled bottles. Coke kept refreshing its approach, not its identity. Okay, it continued. Okay. The magic for them is knowing what not to change. They never abandon their soul to modernize. They let consistency drive their disruption. So you can imagine somebody sitting in Coke saying, you know what? We are about we are about happiness, optimism, and togetherness. Okay, and because that's our center, even when we are driving disruption, whether we are evolving in the marketplace or even scaling, always remembering where we are anchored, with regards to the essence of our brand. And that's how Coke continues to sparkle. Century after century, they don't look like they're going anywhere, not even when everybody has been saying, oh, sugar is bad for the children, sugar is bad for everybody. You still have Coke, still strong. And it's because of being consistent in their their brand identity. Now, one of the other things, let me just say something so that we don't confuse each other. Just go back a little bit. Oh, okay, you can sit here. When we talk about identity, a lot of people think about identity more in terms of the logo and that sort of thing. Whereas the logo is part of it, especially a part of what we call the brand physique, identity is also narrated. It's what does this brand stand for? What are its beliefs, its values? What wouldn't it do? What does it do? All those things are about identity. Identity is about who are you. Okay, so when you hear identity, don't just think about the logo. Yes, it's about how you look, but it's also about what do you stand for? What are your principles, your culture, your values? Okay, so let's look at the visual now. So disruptive consistency drives Coca-Cola's happiness. What never changed? Happy feelings with every sip. Iconic red and white. Uplifting visual identity. What evolved? Marketing campaigns, messaging on togetherness and sustainability. Key point: change let Coca-Cola stay relevant without losing its spark. So share a Coke and sustainability outreach, because that's where they are now with all these prove that you can renew your marketing without diminishing your brand's essence. Okay, let's move on. Susan. Okay, again, reminding you about these three anchors. They're about disruptive consistency. Okay. Okay, let's look at Dove now. Dove is an exciting brand from Unilever, 1957. Launch of Dove Beauty Bar. It was positioned as a gentle moisturizing soap, still is. 2004 Real Beauty Campaign challenges conventional beauty standards. And that's a good story, and we'll hear about that story. Brand remains a global voice for body positivity and self-esteem, and that's what they've been about. Beauty should be a source of confidence, not anxiety. What does that mean? Sorry, go back, please. Susan? Please go forward. Oops, you've gone too far. Okay. We are still on Dove. Okay. I think let's just let me just speak from here because of time. Anyway, what Unilever was saying with Dove was everybody is beautiful in their own way. Yeah. So Dove is not just what it sold, but what it stood for: real beauty, kindness, and confidence. Okay. They had a campaign for real beauty in 2004, while others marketed an attainable perfection of beauty. Dove celebrated real women, stretch marks, curves, wrinkles, and all. They dared to evolve the beauty narrative. Okay. And
Do
they
I
did.
go on?
Sorry?
Do I go on?
No. Yeah. It actually became a movement more than just a skincare brand. And it drove the message of self-esteem and authenticity. Okay, go on then. Next. Okay. I don't know what has happened, Susan. Susan, did something happen? Okay. Okay, so anyway, oops, it's gone down. Okay.
Next is Naivas.
Yeah, it just okay. Okay, anyway, just jump to the next. Okay, let's move on to the next. Let's look at Naivas then. Born in Naivasha as a family-owned self-service Duka.
Okay, so Christine will share from here because I'm entering a meeting. Christine.
Okay, so in 2013, Naivas became Kenya's largest supermarket chain. Um, and then 2024 expanded into e-commerce, tackles emerging markets. It started in 1990 as a simple duka, but it was built on a simple promise: save Kenyans money and bring dignity to everyday retail. Over time, it grew, not just in size, but in purpose. Purpose is very important these days. And you can see both Equity and Safaricom are very much about purpose. Purpose is always about why were you created? What were you created to do for humanity? That's what purpose is. Over time, it grew not just in size, but in purpose. Now the largest, remember the days of Nakumat. Naivas has never forgotten what really mattered because of remembering where it came from. Okay. Jump to the next. And you can see the way it evolves through the different years, but always remembering that it wants to save Kenyans money, making modern retail accessible for all. In the beginning, because I had a meeting once with the MD Kimani, he was like, I don't know why Nakumat, those days, I don't know why Nakumat is following us um, into the rural areas, into deep east lands and all that. That's our area. We don't want to come, and that's what they said at the time. We don't want to come to Lavington and to all these other upmarket places in Karen. They didn't want. But then they asked themselves a question. Doesn't everybody need accessibility? Doesn't everybody want to pay a fair price? And in the process, they were able to scale because they realized, you know what? It does not take away from our soul or our anchor. It does not take away our evolving with new formats, new offerings, and it allows us to scale. Move on, and that's why they've been what they've been. Okay, always remembering these three anchors. Move on. Okay, and then Tusker. Tusker was born in 1923 with a bold elephant and a bolder purpose: to toast Kenyan pride. And though it has had refreshes, for example, the elephant used to face the left and nowadays it faces the right, meaning that it wants to move forward. It now has product variants. It has had product variants longer than 2023, really. Long time ago, it had Tusker Export. It had Tusker Export, the small one that was called. They had a campaign at the time called Bilibili Kama Kawaida, because they used to sell them in twos, the very small dumpy bottle. And then, of course, there's been Tusker Premium. It's no longer there. It used to have like a silver foil on top. And then, of course, Tusker Malt. Now you see Tusker Cider. So all that is about evolving. Okay? It's evolving to ensure you stay relevant. But what hasn't it lost? Let's go to the next slide and see what it has not lost. Christine, next slide, please. Yeah. So what never... Okay, go back. What never changed? The elephant logo. Although you can see it has changed a little bit, but it's still the elephant. The one on the right is, these days they want it to face the front. Kenyan Pride, My Country, My Beer. Now, My Country, My Beer was a campaign in the late 90s, early 2000s, when South African brewery came in with Castle. And what Tusker appeals to is to the nationalism of the people. Somebody is coming to take over our market. And it appealed to that nationalism of people that then supported Tusker against Castle. And I guess that's why Castle is no longer here. So although that was a campaign theme, Tusker is very aware that it sees itself as Kenya's beer, or Kenya's number one beer. So what evolved? Distinct variants, marketing errors, lifestyle expansion to stay relevant even as new consumers come in. I left the breweries in 2005, and in 2005, everybody used to drink beer. But these days, people don't drink beer, or younger people don't drink beer, they drink spirits. And yet, Tusker has remained relevant in its own way. So, like a well anchored ship, Tusker shows that you can weather decades of change without losing your soul. I mean, you can see it's 100 years old, Tusker, and it's still going strong. Brands don't last these days anymore. Move on. Christine? Christine? Okay, and let's look at Nakumat for, oops. So, okay, this is the complete, oops. Okay, that's why you have to run it yourself. Okay, go back a bit. Okay, here. So this is a complete solution, and you can see, Apple's design philosophy, M-Pesa's platform leap, its app, equities expansion. Okay, and though these are the exemplars for each of these pillars, if you look at each of them has actually gone through the three. So my message to you today is don't just look at one of them. If you really want to grow your brand, if you really want to disrupt the market in that way, then it's about the anchor, the evolve, and the scale. But what keeps your brand close to the heart of people is the anchor pillar. The rest are about growth, they're about staying relevant. But the anchor is really about the fundamental needs. Okay, let's move on then. Okay, Nakumat warning. When evolution becomes revolution. And Nakumat's journey is very sad. I loved Nakumat. And I don't, did anybody else love Nakumat the way I did? If you experienced it, can I see it in the chat? Anybody? Did anybody love Nakumat? I loved Nakumat at its time. Nobody did, or nobody knows it. Well, let me see whether there's one. Betty, yeah, Betty. Yes, Betty loved Nakumat. Catherine did. Faith did. All under one roof, Faith. Huh? It was an amazing brand. It's and Faith, we will look at your question. I've seen your question. We can answer it at the end, if you don't mind. The one on Coke. Nakumat had everything. Yes, Naivas is big, but whenever I go into Naivas, I'm like, oh my God, I can't get all the things that I found in Nakumat in those days. Unfortunately, and they had nothing but the best. And later on, you need it, we got it. 2000s, rapid expansion across East Africa. 2010s, lost focus, bloated operations, identity crisis, issues of debt, not paying their debt. And you don't pay your debt and yet you're paid cash. As consumers, we pay cash. Even when you're using your credit card, it's still, it's near cash. It's not too far away. And therefore, collapse and closure. That was so, so sad. Can anybody else think of other brands that have lost their identity? Just very quickly. And feel free, by the way, just to jump out. You don't have to even write. Just say it. Which brands have lost that? That thing that was... you remember having a loyalty card? Oh, yes, for Nakumat. Oh, I did too. I also had that. Go on, Teresa.
Everready.
Everready. Who said that? Who said Everready?
Hi, Ken.
Hi.
Faith is my name.
Oh, yes, Faith.
I wanted to say Kodak.
Kodak. Oh, gosh. Kodak.
Yes.
Do you know what used to happen? I don't know whether you guys experienced that, but for us, When we were kids, the cameraman used to come to our house like on a Saturday or Sunday, and they would take our photographs of our family when we were kids. And then they would come a month later to bring the photos. Can you imagine? That's what used to happen. Because you see, the reel had to get finished. So they had to go to everybody around the place, and then the reel would finish. So, so you wait for photos after 1 month. And it's amazing. And I miss those photos. You know, the other day I went to my mom's house and she was showing us the photos in albums. And I was like, wow, when was this? You know, I saw one of, and I'm going to show it to you because it's right here. I saw one, my God, you know, I saw one. I don't know how old here I must have been like 22 in college with some classmates. I don't know whether you can see. I'm right in the middle with like a blue shirt. I was probably 23 or 20 something. That guy is Palestinian. So, but let me show you one when I was at the brewery in 2000. That's me on the right. We had really big offices, my friend and I team. You know, so this camera, these photographs, you know, you can see them, but these days we don't see photographs because they're on our phones. They are lost. So yes, Kodak. Tuskies. Oh my God, Nokia. I had a Nokia in the late 90s. Tuskies. My, you guys. Copia, very sad, not too long ago. Uchumi. Wow. I was a sales rep at Nestle years ago before I joined what is called Rekit Benkiza these days. But in Nestle, in my first job, I was in sales. And we used to go to Uchumi, and those guys were arrogant. My God. You know, they were the only like major supermarket. But look at what happened. Ukwala. Oh my God, Ukwala is not there. Are you sure Mumias is not there anymore? Mali. And then Motorola. Wow. See, we have all these reasons. And what you should do on your own, just sit down and just try to understand what happened to those brands. I mean, they were popular in their time. Lady Gay is not there, Winfred. Akamba Bus, it's not there. That's just amazing. I remember all these things, all these brands, my God. And these were powerful brands. What did they not do is something that we need to learn. What did they not do? Not only in the anchor pillar, but even in the evolve and even in the scale. What did they not do? Think about that even as we, as we move towards next. Okay, so we've talked about Nakumat. Scales too fast. So what are some of the identity questions we want to ask? What is the brand's vision? Where does the brand want to go? What is its permanent crusade, its purpose? Why does it exist? For who? What does it want to change in the world? What does it want to change with humanity? What are its values? How does it behave? What are its principles? What is the brand's field of competence? So that you don't decide today, we sell buses, and tomorrow you now have the same name and you started selling cakes or something. It's like, is that legitimate? You can have at that company, yes, but change the name. The name needs to mean something. What makes it different? What are the signs which make the brand recognizable? These are the questions you want to ask yourself as a manager of brands. Now, if you look at this little tool, this is another tool that looks at the identity, the soul, that bit of the anchor. It's called an identity prism. It's a very good book that I like, of that Professor Kapfera. It's called this book. It's called The New Strategic Brand Market, and it's a big book. You can see how thick it is. But it's a good book, and this tool is in that book. It defines the identity, and in the center, it has the essence of the brand or the soul of the brand. So when you're building your brand, when you're defining the identity, remember I told you it's not just the logo, It's these things. It's the personality. It starts here. You can see the numbers. It moves like this when you're feeling it. 2, 3, cross over to 4, 5, 6. This side is internalization. That side is externalization. The picture of the sender is the owner of the brand or the brand itself. The picture of the receiver, you can see these are the customers, is the people at the other side. So you start with the physique. What is it? What does it look like, etc. Personality. What kind of personality does it have? How does it communicate? If it was a person, what would it be like? The culture. What are its values? How does it see the world? How does it behave? Crossover to relationship. How does it relate with outsiders? Look at Nestle. I worked at Nestle as a sales rep, my first job. Look at it with its nestlings in there. And that's how it relates with consumers. And then customer reflection. Customer reflection asks the question, this car is for Kinahu. Somebody answer me. This V8 Lexus, it's for Kinahu. Somebody quickly chat because of time. It's for Kinahu, the Lexus. Nobody knows or nobody wants to answer. Okay. Politicians, government, wealthy people. Okay, so that's what reflection means. Elite, CEOs. Okay. So you have the it's for Kinahu, but here we have that's externally. But internally, it's what do customers think? How do they see themselves? I feel, I am. Me, I should be driving a Porsche. Okay. So when you've done this and worked it really well, you're able to come and define the essence or the soul of the brand. Okay, so that's how it is. Let's move on then. Next slide. Okay, so framework, brand core versus brand expression, and this, the core of the brand or the identity, the essence is the purpose, values, personality, positioning. Brand expression, campaigns, packaging, tone. How does the brand express itself out there? That's what this is. Keep going. Okay, what are the takeaways? Enduring brands have clarity about what must never change. Evolution should be intentional, not reactive. Great strategies are guardians of consistency and champions of reinvention. Local brands that endure are those that lead culture, not just follow it. Every brand touchpoint is either reinforcing consistency or eroding it. Okay, very good. So those are your big takeaways. Next. Christine. Next. Is it over? Is it done? That's the next one, eh? Okay, so any questions before we close? Sorry, we started late and I had issues with presenting, and therefore we've gone on longer than we had planned to do. But I've really enjoyed being with you guys because you've been very, very interactive, and that's what happens even in ISA. We have a lot of fun, really, and that's what this is about. Any questions? Anybody? Oops, what has happened? Yes, I knew there was something, and I was like, how come it has disappeared? Is that the last slide? Christine? Christine, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so the brands that endure aren't the ones that change the most. They're the ones that knew exactly what not to change. That's the strategist's true power. And in business strategy, we call that trade-off. What are the things that we don't want to do? What should stay the same? What should give us our identity and differentiator? So that when people talk about your brand, they're very clear. And by the way, this is even if you have a brand that you're creating on the side of your jobs, always have that in mind. My brand will be different. It will be for a reason. It will be, if you like, a blue ocean. It may be in a particular category. So, for example, it's going to be a soft drink, and somebody said one day, but I'm going to make mine an energy drink, or I'm going to make mine organic. Always think in that way. Don't just say, hey, those guys are doing well, let me also start something like that. Think about what is it that's going to make mine different from others. I met a lady the other day who is doing avocado beauty products, and she just does them from the very small place. But for her, it's like that's, for me, it's about the organic. For me, it's about health, hygiene. I mean, great health for the skin and all that. And I can never change that. Okay, so any questions, guys? Let me go back. Faith, your question, I'm trying to go back to your question. I'm genuinely intrigued by how innovative Coca-Cola's marketing and communications team is. They consistently deliver refreshing, relevant campaigns that have the power to draw you in, sometimes even making you crave the product, even if you're not a regular consumer. Great. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, and you see, if you look at that, that is in that area of evolving, especially evolving, ensuring that your marketing is changing all the time without losing the anchor. So thank you for that contribution, Faith. I hope we'll see you soon. I think that's about it. I can't see any questions. So back to you, Christine. Thank you so much, guys. I've really, really, really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much, Ken, for sharing. It was such an insightful session. I just want to ask one question that came from the audience.
Okay.
They asked, while brand consistency is the cornerstone of brand identity, how can you tell when it's time to either step change or to reinvent your brand to further take advantage of consistency?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
While consistency is very important for identity, if you realize throughout the presentation, if we say that your brand has been successful over time, especially, by the way, let me define something. A lot of times we say, oh, we are launching a brand. The truth is, you're launching a product or a service with a name, not a brand. Brand takes time to build. A brand is about the relationship between the product and its name and the consumer. There has to be resonance. There has to be, we know each other and I feel close to you. I remember Coke, for example. Coke tried to create a new Coke because it had done some blind testing with Pepsi. Blind testing means these are two glasses of black liquid. Which one do you like? And Pepsi always won. So Coke decided to change to that taste and called it New Coke. And consumers took Coke to court. And court had to revert to the original. So you're successful when your brand ownership has moved from you to the consumer. So what does this have to do with consistency? That when your brand has been consistent overnight, it's because you have been staying true to the identity of your brand, but you have also been doing other things that are evolving and that are scaling, but keeping that consistent soul of the brand. So you should try as hard as possible not to change. I mean, you can see people like Coke and people like Tusker and all that have not changed their brands in 100 years. And I'm not talking about the logo. I'm talking about what the brands mean. They've not changed it. The Bada Akazi brand, they've not changed the soul in a long time. So what you do, it's about evolving. What are the things that you do? And you see it with Coke doing that a lot. They keep the core of the brand, but they keep evolving in terms of marketing, in terms of marketing messages, but being clear that the soul, the core must remain. I don't know whether that answers your question. Who asked that question?
It was someone who asked during registration.
I hope the person got their answer.
Yes, I think that was clearly handled. I'll just ask the last one also from the audience. That I think cuts across. How do I maintain a strong brand strategy with the cycle of politics in the coming year, seeing that there are demonstration build up?
Sorry, just say that again. I wish you had put it on the chat. It would have been easier.
Okay. I'll just put it as I say it. So the question asks, how do I maintain?
Okay. How do I maintain?
How do I maintain a strong brand strategy with the cycle of politics, being that there are demonstrations?
The brand quality.
No, the brand strategy, a strong brand strategy.
Well, ideally, the brand strategy should not be affected by politics, ideally, or mandamano. Ideally, the brand should. I mean, I'm looking at all the brands that are out there. Has anything changed on those brands because of mandamano? Ideally, it shouldn't, unless your brand is connecting with a political side. Okay, thanks, Brian. Unless your brand is, you remember, like the way Safaricom was starting to look like they were upsetting the Gen Zs. You see, that can start affecting you. And it's always important for brands to be very authentic in the way they characterize themselves, the way they demonstrate who they are. And I wouldn't spend too much time on the political bit. It's more about the consumer. It's the consumer who buys the product, not the politician. And also, I feel as if the politicians are not strong enough to influence whether I'm going to use this brand or another. At least in Kenya, that's what I have seen. I hope that answers the question. Okay. So, yeah. Okay, I've seen your So I hope that answers that question. Is there any other one?
There won't be any other.
By the way, guys, I've put my number there if you want to call me. Feel free. Faith, you have a lot of stories, so if you feel like catching up, in reference to the blue and red ocean strategy, how best can brands offer consistency without eroding brand essence? Okay, when you talk about the blue ocean, we are really talking about a market that has not been touched. And it could be in the same category. A red ocean is a bloody ocean where everybody is competing, cutthroat pricing, and so on and so forth. So it's always good if it's not easy. It's always good if you can create a brand that sits on its own and it has its own consumers. And therefore they can continue, staying true to their brand without having to copy what happens in the red ocean. What happens in the red ocean? For example, if you're dealing with soft drinks, then you're saying there are certain parts that we say these are par. Yeah, these are items that are there's a proposition, there's value that is about par. For us to remain relevant, we must taste like a soft drink, or we must be like a soft drink, not taste. But then for differentiation, we might then say, but mine has extra vitamins, or mine is for energy. And that's what differentiates it. And that should hold, you should then stay with what is central to your brand. And it doesn't matter what the red ocean does in that case. Okay,
Well
so
answered.
Abigail. Oh, hi, Abby. Hi, Abby. Long time. Tell me about the new Nakada rules. I actually don't know. Are they the ones of don't sell alcohol around schools and all that? Or which ones are they? Marianne? You can just unmute and just say if you like. Marianne? Or just write whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. So what's the question? What about the new Nakada rules for alcohol sale and marketing?
I think they said it yesterday that they want to raise the age from 18 to 21, but I don't know if there's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the 18 to 21 and not being around schools. But although that one of not being around schools has been there for a long time, but I think people just don't bother about it. Yes, I've seen that 18 to 21. Wow. That's like the US, some states. Well, so what will that mean? Some of the people in college will not be able to drink.
Also with publicity, they wanted that influencers should also not be a part of publicizing alcohol consumption.
Yes, I saw that, Rachel. What do you think yourselves? Tell me, Rachel, what do you think about that, about those laws?
From my end, I was listening to radio when I was on traffic today, and most people that drink were saying that they did not start drinking from an advertisement. So clearly there could be something that can provoke you to start drinking. Maybe you saw it in your family, your parents are drinking, your peers are drinking. So the bit of getting at influencers publicizing alcoholic whatever. That's the argument that I saw in that area.
Okay, I mean, it depends. One of the things we say that we don't do, even though we see it in advertising, there's something in advertising that we call subliminal messaging. And subliminal means that you may not think, but remember, you have eyes. If you have eyes, you see the ads on billboards, you hear them on radio, for example, at least in the past with beer. And, these days we don't really hear them. So those messages go into you subliminally, and you find yourself choosing something because of them, but you don't know that it was because of an ad, especially when you're dealing with a particular brand. If it's like what those guys were saying, they saw a family member drinking, that was different, of course. Okay. Oh, there are the rules I can see on the chat now. Where there are many. Watch out the way we make it look like there are 5. There are so many.
Okay. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Marianne.
Yes. So there are 2. So home delivery of alcohol to be prohibited, particularly orders made via phone or digital platforms. So I know yes.
But why would they have a problem with that? I mean, you remember why that? Oh, sorry, I know I've interrupted you. You want to tell me about others, but that one doesn't make sense a lot, because if you remember when people during Alcoblow, those days of early Alcoblow, people started drinking in the house, so they didn't have to drive. Now, if you start telling them that they can't get alcohol in the house simply because you don't want an 18-year-old to do it, how does that help? Anyway, go on, Marianne.
Yeah. So the second one is online channels that enable minors to access and order alcohol to be eliminated. So,
Okay,
this, yeah. So the 2 are similar. I know this will affect the companies like Glovo, Ox and Cox, The Bar, among very many people who, organize or companies that deliver alcohol to people at home.
There are actually companies that are set just for that,
Yes, exactly. Very, very many.
Yeah.
Even internationally, like you can order alcohol and have it brought to you.
Yeah.
Hi, that will really destroy a lot of companies in the market. So yeah, so those are some of the major issues that politics has interfered with organization.
Yeah.
One question.
Go ahead. Teresa. Is it Teresa or Teresa?
Teresa.
Okay,
So I
Teresa.
just wanted to get your opinion, whether it's good or bad, or whether it matters for brands to contribute to like things that happened locally. Like, let's say, for example, we had the issues of police brutality and all that, the mandamanas and all that. So is it good or bad if brands actually communicate, or if they don't communicate? Because you'd also come across videos of people saying that, brands that are quiet, we're watching you. Being silence means that you're complicit with whatever is happening and all that. So should you actually comment, or should you just stay quiet?
If you want to be safe with your brand, you just refuse to comment, because it's very risky, isn't it? It's really risky to comment. And you don't need to. That's not your job to comment. That's my view. What is your view, Teresa?
I think it's also safe to be quiet, because it may affect, you might get the wrong attention. I know people say that there's no such thing as bad publicity, but you might get the wrong attention to your business.
And you must ask yourself, is it in line with your brand? You get, it's really about that also, the anchoring bit. Is it in line? Is it part of your values? Is it part of the character of your brand? Because if you have a brand that is very warlike, that people love because it's a rebel, it might be fine to do it. And, a brand that is risky. Like now there's some work I'm doing, and I have a meeting at 3 that is with an NGO, and its job is, the NGO called Greenpeace, and its job is to fight. It's to fight for communities and for individuals, especially with regards to climate justice. We don't think about climate justice, but when we have floods and things like that, the suffering that people go through, and therefore what should governments do? So this organization fights those sorts of things, or deforestation and stuff like that. So an organization like that would say what it needs to say. That's what it's built for. But our brands, service brands, product brands, I think it would be risky, and it's not worth it. Unless you're very sure that if I do this, I'm going to get 1 million new customers, and I'm willing to take the risk. Some people are brave. Yeah. That all these Gen Zs will now start buying my brand. Actually, that's a good idea. Maybe I need to think about that. As long as you don't get kidnapped after that and you become a has-been, unalived, as they say. Okay, I think let's finish there.
Yeah, I think we'll finish there. Thank you so much, and everyone, for attending our webinar. Thank you for sticking until this time. I hope you have learned a lot. I just want to mention a few things. That this is just a preamble or an introduction of the course that is supposed to start next week. It's called Marketing and Brand Planning with AI, and Ken Karaoke will be our trainer. It's only a 6 weeks short course, and it's purely virtual from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So you can actually, do it while you're still working. And moreover, it's an engaging session, just as you have seen throughout this webinar. I hope you can all join this training, this short course. I have shared the link of the short course on the chat. You can also join our WhatsApp channel. But that's it. Thank you so much. In case you have any questions, you know where to reach us. You can check our website. You can call us. We are always available. And the last thing is that we'll share the recording. Yes, we'll share the recording. Who didn't say anything?
Okay. Thank you, Christine. And thank you, everybody. I hope to see you soon.
Okay, sawa sawa. All the best. Take care. Enjoy your day. Goodbye.
Okay, asante.